Campus here, you have a oil production facility as well refinery for the student to perform their apprenticeship.
Sheng is experimenting with a cutting-edge chemical process to refine tar sands oil. If it works, tar sands companies won't need to build costly upgraders to sweeten the crude. Sheng's confident his technology could save billions of dollars, enticing potential foreign investors.
This is the typical gas oil material we get from the bitumen upgrader from Fort McMurray.
Shell's Alexander Vandermatte is always looking for the next best thing and likes what he sees.
Given the amount of resources they're pouring at it, sooner or later they must be able to succeed. But I would say it's a fast ticking clock. This society is still accelerating. More and more cars are getting on the road. And I've got a feeling if they make it, it's going to be a really narrow escape.
A lot of people seem to be very scared about changes. But on the other hand, Chinese just love to have changes. Chinese just love the crisis. And Chinese always believe it's the crisis that will make a big difference. This is where you're going to make prosperity.
The entry point may be Sheng's technology. But China's ultimate goal is to own a piece of the tar sands and build a Rocky Mountain pipeline to the Pacific. But not all welcomed them, fearing an aggressive competitor on America's doorstep.
I don't think the Americans want the Chinese to hone in on what for them is a secure source of oil. And I think the Canadians are divided about it. I think some would say, well, geez, two markets make sense. We might be able to get a better price for our product. Why not? And others are thinking, well, if we globalize the resource, then we'll liquidate this resource much more quickly than we ever thought. And I think there'll be a big fight about that.
Canadians can debate among themselves, but the fate of the tar sands will be determined elsewhere. America is the main developer and buyer of tar sands oil. Over 55% of all capital invested in the tar sands is American, and nearly 3/4 of the crude is exported stateside. It may be Canadian soil, but it's America's call.
Fred, how are you doing? Good. Where are you now?
There, this is Tim calling again from the Alberta Enterprise Group.
Oh, okay.
How are you doing?
Organizers sort out last-minute details for Alberta Premier Ed Stelmach's historic trip to Washington.
We have set the stage for our premier.
Yep.
We have given him the platform, and now it's up to him to deliver.
Team Alberta is anxious about a recent bill prohibiting U.S. federal agencies from using dirty oil. Here for damage control, Premier Stelmach's desperate to convince Americans that tar sands oil is secure and clean. Washington-based heavy oil promoter Paul Michael Wiebe watches from the sidelines and hopes Alberta rises to the challenge.
Canadians have a lot to learn from the American experience. Americans are not afraid of taking a risk. They seek challenge. They are not afraid of failure.
The room's buzzing, wondering whether Premier Stelmach can win back America. He's no spellbinding speaker, but he has a trump card: China.
Now, there's a myth out there that oil sands production comes at a too high an environmental cost. And the myth has gained some traction here in the United States. There are ongoing attempts in some quarters of this country, and of course in ours, to slow down or even stop oil sands production. These attempts don't really reflect reality. Even worse, they could serve to jeopardize this country's energy security at a time when Asian markets are clamoring for oil.
Stelmach bets the U.S. will never allow China into its backyard. Shortly after his speech, the U.S. government says tar sands oil is clean enough for them, proving security trumps environment, at least for now. Alberta's market is safe, and America's energy is secure for the next century.
It's in this nation's interest to trade with Canada. It's in, I think, the Canadian interest to trade with the United States. I'll let the Prime Minister speak to that. But it's
But there's still someone out in the cold, the rest of Canada.
Prime Minister Harper calls Canada an energy superpower, but what we're doing is exporting oil and gas to the United States, and we have no plans to bring in oil and gas for Eastern Canadians. We would be letting them freeze in an international energy crisis.
The main pipelines carrying tar sands crude all point south, feeding the U.S. What's missing is a pipeline to Eastern Canada, leaving them to get their oil from insecure places like Iraq, Algeria, and Venezuela.
We, in fact, are the most insecure country in the International Energy Agency, even though we have all of this oil and gas.
While Canada's energy supply is unstable, Norway's future seems secure. Stig Burseth surveys Statoil's newly acquired piece of the tar sands, confident he can extract oil without open pit mining.
And they send it into the main plant there.
Kang Shun remains on the outside, still looking for a chance to get China into the tar sands game.
You know, the conveyor belt. Then you send it.
Newfoundland welder Jeff Wiscombe is stranded in Fort McMurray for yet another year. His family dreams of returning home, and perhaps Newfoundland's Premier, Danny Williams, will help him get there.
What are you doing? When are you
Going on Wednesday?
But why do you have to?
Well, because I have to.
After 10 long years in the tar sands, welder Andy Rudick decides the boom comes at too high a price. He's now taken a job closer to home, reuniting his family.
Did you?
As the Oilers prepare to do battle with the Capitals, there's lots of excitement in the air. Paul Michael Weeby's here to soak it all up, his matchmaking finally done. Team Alberta celebrates their apparent victory in Washington. But some think they've been played by the Americans, too quick to give it away.
I think we should be more blunt and more straightforward with the Americans, that our development of the oil sands is going to be orderly and it's going to be to our benefit. Because I keep reading in American media somehow that their whole energy problem is going to be solved by the Alberta Canadian oil sands. And that's not a good thing for our country.
Oh, Canada, our home and native.
In the tar sands game, there are inevitably winners and losers.
The boreal forest is a loser. Water users in Alberta are losers. And democracy itself is a loser in not just in Alberta, but also in Canada. Because the more a nation becomes dependent on a single resource such as oil, the less democratic it comes over time. Oil begins to make the decisions. You introduce these incredible political imbalances to the system that slowly and incrementally change the very character of your democracy.
Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.